when you can lean into patients to say, new technologies come, we don't want to recommend it yet until some of our own patients have trialed this and we've heard their feedback firsthand, and we want you to be one of them trial patients. The level of trust that brings is far superior to what anybody else does.
Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the podcast for high-performing hearing care clinics that want to learn the strategies, ideas, and truths behind some of the smartest private practice clinics in the world. Now, time for your hosts, Phil M. Jones and Ollie Luke.
Hello and welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast. We've got an interesting discussion today, and that is about launching new technology and how best to do this, how to not become a manufacturer show pony, and how to ensure you leave no stone unturned to make it into a super successful campaign. I'm joined today by Sir Phil M. Jones. He's not knighted, but in this little scenario he is. How you doing, Phil?
Stop you I'm doing good, but I gotta just lean into this for a second. What do you mean by a manufacturer show pony?
Oh, it hurts to see it. So right now we're working on a new technology campaign, and I've seen it. Like, okay, so buy one new technology device and you get the second one half price. It's a really bland mailer. There's talks of let's send this to 10,000 people in our community because that's the one thing that somebody who hasn't yet treated their hearing loss needs to know, that new technology has landed. Let's speak about all these features that nobody actually understands, because that's what people want to know.
So you're talking about like all the stuff where it's like, let me tell everybody that it has quadruple trifactor directionality and universal, unilateral, epidermal, whatever versions of natural sound, and it has 27 micro channels and 42 whatnots and 17 widgets of whatnots, and you're thinking, dang, I need this thing now.
Yeah, it's just a bad game of Scrabble, and it's just a combination of words that mean nothing. Yeah, that's apparently what's important. So it's painful. I see it far too often.
Okay. So who are some of the brands that you see that launch new products well? Let's disregard hearing care industry. What is some of the stuff that you've seen through the years that you're like, dang, that was good. Dang, that was good. That was amazing.
You go to the cliche ones, and the cliche ones is usually Apple. Now, Apple, they change one little thing and all of a sudden sell more than they've ever sold before. And I think once you lean in and look at the way Apple do it, which is unique, is one, people that buy Apple are so scared of being outdated or having old technology that it becomes almost taboo. And then secondly, they sell the experience of the new thing more than the features of it, or at least during the most successful launches they did. Now it's run by, people that don't want to rock the boat and make very slight variations. It may be slightly different. What jumps to your mind on a smaller business perspective?
Well, I'm going to take this Apple thing for a second, and there are lessons in that. Is sure, we can go back to the launch of the iPod or the first iPhone and see those as quite prolific moments in time when it comes to a product launch. But if you look at the more realistic examples that we can relate to, when the iPhone goes from the 8 to the 10, I still don't know anybody who's got an iPhone 9, which I think is magic. Or the more recent sort of 2020, 2021 upgrade scenarios where the feature changes are minor. They look at a few things, right? Firstly, they say, well, who are my early adopters? Who are the people that are going to get their hands on this before anybody else? Because what they're going to become is they're going to become my silent salespeople. So they try and say, look, we know a small group of people are going to get their hands on this, regardless of whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Let's get it to those folks first, and then let's get their critique and get their words around it. I also know, like in the motor industry, people do that thing remarkably well, right? They want voices of experience to be able to show up and have their opinion about this vehicle and to change the dialogue instantaneously away from what the manufacturer says about it and what the users say about it, or what trusted users. Like, I'm old enough to remember the power of Top Gear within the motor industry, and I know that's one of Britain's best exports. But if Jeremy Clarkson had good things to say about a car, chances are that car was going to sell a great deal better. And that's something that some of the big brands do very, very well, is they instantaneously try and shift the messaging about the vehicle to the opinions of somebody who's either a trusted individual within that space or just a quantity of high quality users who are experienced users. So Apple wants somebody who's used the first Apple iPhone, the 3, the 6, the 6 Plus, you know, the 8, the X, and now they are into the 11. They want somebody who can be able to talk that progressive journey. So how does that play out in the world of hearing care? Is it means that if you want to successfully launch new technology without sounding like a manufacturer show pony, the people's voice that you need to capture in the earliest possible days are the loyalist wearers of hearing aids. People try and dump mailers on 10,000 people. Instead, they should be thinking, who are the people that I know love the features of their existing technology, care about the quality of the technology, and would be interested to share their opinion on something new that's blown up? And then your marketing to the masses is the marketing of the opinions of the expert, and you are not the expert. The expert is the consumer, because it's their opinion that matters more than yours, or in particular, the manufacturers.
It's so true. And that's what we're seeing work really well. The biggest success stories that we're seeing is the clinics that have gone, okay, I'm going to hand select 50, 20, 30 patients that we've got great relationships with, that are somewhat due an upgrade, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, that we still see on a regular basis that this would be good for. Invite them in with a very low barrier of trial this. All we want is your feedback. And then that feedback becomes an invaluable tool for going out to the market, for selling to wider patients. And then most importantly, a missing ingredient is that creates the most powerful, comprehensive online article reviewing that new piece of technology. And in many ways, them pieces of content can beat the manufacturer's own piece of content for that name when searched on Google. And we've seen that time and time again.
Get tons and tons of traction around the fact that you put opinion pieces out into the marketplace. And I want to take that opinion piece further, right? We're saying, how do you launch new technology without becoming a manufacturer show pony? We got to change the voice, right? Is if I'm a consumer, what do I care about? I don't care about what it's got. I care about what is it going to be like to live with. Like, I'm currently going through the process of potentially buying a new car for my home in Florida. And I'm between like 2-3 different options of what I might go for. So I don't want somebody to tell me why that car is brilliant. I want somebody to tell me why that car is better than that car. Like why one car is better than another. That helps me in my decision-making process. So if I'm in the business of being able to say, how do I successfully launch a new product without being a manufacturer show pony, I need to be able to produce content and say, why is new product X better than old product Y? Why is new product X better than competitive product Z? That is the content that I care about. And that is the thing that is going to help me in my decision-making process to be able to help me understand why I would choose one over the other. And then there's a second thing to be able to lean into that I see so often overlooked when it comes to launching something new, is what is it like to actually own this thing? Not why should I buy it? What is it like to live with? So let's take that same car analogy that I'm working through right now, is I might choose one car over the other because its boot, yes, that is what we call a trunk, is bigger in one than the other. And better than that, one of these vehicles has what they are calling a frunk, like a front trunk, which I think is hilarious. And that, for me, given the fact that I want to buy a car that I shouldn't buy, that is entirely impractical based on the fact that I have twins, gives me 2 storage spaces. That means I might just be able to get my grocery shopping in, right? Like, that might be a decision maker alone. And I think this is what we miss. The reason that somebody might choose to buy something isn't because of the thousands of features. Sometimes it's like the 1 or the 2. Like, what did Apple do when they launched the iPhone 11? Really, the only thing that I'm aware that the iPhone 11 had that is better than the 10 is that it has a better camera. Now, no doubt it has 1,000 things that are improved and evolved. Yet they lead with 1. So be prepared to say that what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 1 or 2 of the benefits of the benefits of the benefits of the new features. And I'm going to create multiple pieces that are consumer facing that talk about why that benefit is of benefit to that person. So let's take, for example, that if you had a new product, one of the big benefits was that you had access to a new receiver that gave people the ability to have a more natural sound experience because they were picking up something with a receiver that was actually in their canal, another microphone, right? Say that existed in some way, shape or form. What would you do to be able to use that? Is you'd put it up to the test in a number of different scenarios and say, does it freaking work? Right? That's all I care about. Not it might work, is does it work? Do customers say this is different? And the only opinions that matter on that are people that have experienced an alternative. So you might know, Ollie, I'm getting a little heated about this. It's because I'm sick of the fact that as long as I can remember in this industry, that what happens is the manufacturer shares with the clinic marketing pieces that then just get parroted onto the consumer, and the consumer is like, what? And they've had this for so long, they don't even complain about it. Where else do we see that, Ollie? Let's puzzle on that for a second. Where else do we see the receipt of terrible marketing messages because the manufacturer led the consumer messaging?
That's a good question. There's
got to be some, right?
Yeah, well, is anybody as crazy enough to do that?
Way, right? If you're in the business of selling aeroplane flights, would you take Boeing's marketing piece about why that engine is so freaking good and then translate to the passenger that wants to go to Barbados? That wouldn't work too clever, would it? Where else would this not work? Okay, what if you're in the restaurant, right? You're in the restaurant business. Would you take the farmer's language around how this cattle has been raised and make that the primary messaging as to why you should pick that dish? Or would you make the messaging around this month's special something different? And maybe the caveat is, oh, and by the way, this is grass-fed, organic, like free range, yada, 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 yada. Those things would be the yes and, as opposed to the, the main event.
Yeah,
so
and this is...
Go on, buddy.
This is what sums up being a manufacturer show pony. I just see it loses you trust. You become, from that independent person that they know to, we're just going to say what they say. And I think once you can step back from that, especially looking back at this trial piece, when you can lean into patients to say, new technology's come, we don't want to recommend it yet until some of our own patients have trialed this and we've heard their feedback firsthand, and we want you to be one of them trial patients. The level of trust that brings is far superior to what anybody else does. And then the next step, when you go to a wider patient list and say, hey, new technology come out, we ask some of our trusted patients to trial it, here's exactly what they say. Mm-hmm. That's a completely different, highly regarded play than what anybody else does, which is, here's all the features directly from a manufacturer's mouth who's never sold anything or wore hearing aids. And I think that's the big difference.
And what you're really saying is when somebody's thinking, why should I upgrade or why should I choose this technology, you've got a don't take my word for it approach. Instead of you saying you should choose this because it has, Z number of channels and because the manufacturer said this is good for, walking hand in hand down the beach, chatting with your loved one. What you have is you have the ability to say, well, I was just as curious about whether this product was as good as what they were saying about when it first arrived on my desk.
And so look at the other risk here. Just so the other risk here is you don't give the patient reviews of this level of technology. That means that patient's got to just trust you. They're openly trusting you. But I believe I would, if I got recommended a certain hearing device, I'd go on Google and I'd look for user reviews of that hearing device. The risk of that is I'd probably also see that it's available for $1,400. And then I've got a whole different question I've got to challenge myself with of, wait a minute, why is it that much? And I've been told it's this much.
And then 50 cents cheaper, right? It is, but somewhere I'm going to find, hold on, I've got what seems to be an apples for apples comparison through somebody else. And confusion at any given level slows down the decision-making process. And that's what our goal is, right? Our goal is to create certainty in the consumer when we're launching something else. And the interesting thing is, if you want to create certainty, the thing you can't do is show up with certainty. If you show up with certainty, you create confusion. If you're like, I'm certain this is the right product for you, I'm certain this is going to be brilliant, little voice inside customer's head says, how can you be so sure? If you show up with I'm not sure if this is for you, yet the experience of dozens of people like you has been blank, 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 and blank, then guess what happens is the consumer feels confident and they have a level of certainty because you showed up with uncertainty. You showed up with curiosity instead. And then what happens is experience breeds confidence in the product. The reason that lots of people are happy to be able to buy a Dyson vacuum cleaner is because thousands of people in the past have bought a Dyson vacuum cleaner and now the brand carries the integrity of everything new that they launch is awesome.
And I think there's another stage of this, and that is the transition process for a patient to step into new technology. Because if you've dropped several $1,000s on something and then you get asked to drop several $1,000s a few years later, it hurts a little bit. It's not a nice, easy decision. So it's how can we make that decision easier? And one way we've seen work very well is looking to build in a minimum buyback value or a minimum guaranteed future value into the initial first purchase, which one puts a natural deadline on why somebody should step into new technology on a certain date. But secondly, it makes that decision to then step into something new less painful. It almost just makes a transition simple.
The biggest reason people don't upgrade, and I've learned this from hundreds and hundreds of interviews with patients, is they have no idea what to do with their existing hearing devices. They've been told that these things are valuable. They're being asked to step into something new, and they're being told to keep them as a backup. Like, would you imagine looking at a new car and you're looking to be able to buy a new car, and instead of them offering you a trade-in value on your car, they said, keep it as a backup? It'd be weird because firstly, you haven't got the room on the driveway. Secondly, what does it say about the new product if you're suggesting I might need a backup? Like, I get it if it's a $300 set of eyeglasses. Like, the backup might be useful if, you lose a pair, you step on a pair that this is a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 hearing care transaction. You don't need a backup, just like you don't need a backup car. And the lessons in this buyback piece are so crucial. Recent example of which I think is a phenomenal example that many of us can learn from, is Peloton bikes, right? Peloton are one of the most fantastic community-inspired brand. If you look at the growth in market share, the volume of revenue that they've drawn out of the healthcare industry over the last just 4 or 5 years, right? Quite a new business, but now a very, very established and successful business. They incorporate subscription. They have a high ticket price. In fact, they're twice the money of anybody else who has a work at home, high quality spin bike. But recently they launched a new product innovation. They launched a new upgrade. They launched new technology. They launched Peloton Plus. That came from listening to their consumers. They've made like 100 changes, but they're highlighting 3 key changes. One is like the screen is bigger and the sound is better, and then it works alongside your Apple Watch. The other is the screen can flip. So if you're doing something off the bike, you can do it on the same screen. You don't need to do it on the iPad. You don't need to do it on the TV. And then the third thing is they've improved some of the ergonomics. So it just feels a little bit better to be able to use, just a base level of refinement. They've done all those things. It is $800 more expensive than the old one. But they're aware of the fact they've got some loyalist customers, some people that have invested $2,500, $3,000 in a bike with them. And some of those people have done that in the last 3 months. Some of them have done it in the last 3 years. Lots of those people are going to want the new one, right? Because the new one is better. So what do they say? If you have a Peloton bike right now, we'll give you $700 for it when we deliver your new one. And interestingly enough, not everybody is going to upgrade, but a giant percentage of people are going to step into that new product, having disposed of the old one, become even more loyal to the brand, and then get another 3-5 years worth of use. What's coming next in 3, 4, 5 years time? Peloton plus, right? It's coming. But we're training a behavior that says, here is new. We listened. This is the stuff that's made it better. Not because the manufacturers decided it's better, because we listened to the things that you said that you wish the product was better at. And then what we did is we created an outcome. What am I inviting everybody to do when I share that example? And we share examples from Apple, we share examples from the motor industry, is to remind yourself that success leaves clues. People keep looking for best practice in the hearing care industry, and they might be looking in the wrong place. If you want to survive what is coming next in this industry, you want to go on to be able to thrive in this ever-changing environment. The clues for growth do not come from inside the industry. And there are thousands of examples of the same. So think about where your innovation truly comes from. It comes from looking at other people who have dominated, kept market share, stolen market share, and are providing solutions that are customer-centric in a modern world.
Nice. And to jump tactically, and I'm jumping back to this buyback piece. One other thing that I think works really well, and we've seen work well, is when you're leaning in to offer somebody a buyback on their existing devices so they can step into something new, the natural question mark is then, what are you going to do with my existing hearing devices? And what some of our members have done is look to partner with local charities or even run an internal foundation where they can then make the promise that we'll take your existing devices, we'll refurbish them, and we'll fit them on somebody that otherwise wouldn't be able to address their hearing challenges. And that works incredibly well because, once again, it flips the buying decision. The buying decision now isn't, this thing will benefit me, but it makes you feel very good knowing that me making this decision is going to impact the life of somebody else. And it's looking at these fine margins where it can get interesting.
And I know what some of you like at home are thinking when you hear Ollie say that right now. You're like, we do that. We push back into Starkey Foundation, or we send them back into the manufacturer's foundation, and they go to kids in Africa and they go towards these good causes. The issue is, when you do that, you are again becoming a manufacturer show pony. What you're doing is you're providing a solution back up to them. I know some of you might be thinking, well, can we resell these? Well, no, what you shouldn't be doing is creating a market for secondhand hearing devices. Your goal should be to say that what we're going to do is use these for goodwill. But what if you do the work to create the good cause that you're going to utilize these for? You create an internal motivation in the other person that says it's worthy of these coming back. And could that be, a shelter? Could that be a benefit group of people who are, under a certain income threshold, or who are at a certain age and meet a certain criteria? Could it be the fact that you lean into one assisted living facility or something that way around and say, everything that comes back, then what we're going to do is we're going to donate a day a month for us to be able to take these devices and see who we can support in a new environment and do something that's community focused, something that matters towards you. And ensure that what you're doing is you're building your brand and not somebody else's.
And the most important element of that is documenting it. It's easy to say we do this. The place that holds real weight, especially when initially running some form of upgrade campaign with this incentive, is to say, hey, here's all the people we helped over the last 12 months, or here's the story of one specific person we helped. It just creates so much proof that what you say is happening, and it holds so much emotional weight in that decision also.
So let me try and wrap this up for us, Ollie. I know people's time is precious. If we're thinking about how to approach new technology and launch it, is we start by launching to our existing hearing aid wearers, right? Getting their opinion. Then we create opinion-based pieces behind that so we can use the opinions of others towards other people. And we make that part of our bigger launch campaign, the voice of experienced users saying that this is why that we love it. We back that up by thinking about all the direct comparisons, and then we provide evidence to say, here is why one is better than the other, or here is why product X is better than an alternative product Y from elsewhere. And we build all of those stories. We think about how we reach into specific user groups like TNS, etc. We create compelling offers that says, here is a reason to upgrade right now because we thought about the fact that you might want to do something with your old ones. And we create compelling offers into the tested not sold group that says, here is a reason to come back and do business with us right now. And then what you've done is you've established your product in the marketplace as being the new market leader. And then everything you do from there is about creating showcased examples of patients being able to live a better life because of the fact that they chose you and the product. And the brand you focus on building is the brand of your clinic, not the brand of the product, because the product is available in multiple other places. And if we make the product the star of the show in its entirety, then guess what happens? Is price becomes the biggest factor that people are looking to be able to negotiate on, and you miss the chance to be able to sell people on what you really are, which is the complete package. So I hope this episode has been useful. It's been fun chatting, Ollie. I always get passionate about things that we could be doing better. So I'm excited to join you again on a future episode of the Business of Hearing podcast.